State of Origin Game 1 is in the books, and it'll be remembered, and probably the entire series will be remembered for being over in the first 8 minutes. Apologies for my voice. Shout out to Sydney. We put on a show. That was an incredible atmosphere. Too bad that the NRL decided to ruin it after 8 minutes. Because yes, for the first time in my lifetime watching State of Origin, we saw a send-off. No, it wasn't for a punch. No, it wasn't for a third man in rear naked choke. It was Joseph Suaalii taking the head off Reece Walsh, and we'll get to it in just a minute. But ladies and gentlemen, Queensland, they are the victors. They steal Game 1 in Sydney. Now, just off the bat, I know everyone's going to be deep diving into Origin. I'll make a separate video discussing what's next for New South Wales at the moment, but I want to say this off the top. It's going to be hard to really analyse this game because, like I alluded to at the beginning, this game was essentially over before it even started, which is a real shame, especially in a game where New South Wales had to win Game 1. The entire game plan was thrown out the window. All the preparation in camp was gone out the window. Madge Maguire's Game 1 strategy, his game plan, everything was thrown out the window. We've seen how big of an impact his send-offs are at club. You could imagine how that would have been to try and beat a 13-man Queensland team. Unfortunately, it just was never going to happen, and we saw the repercussions of that. The Sydney crowd, while it was still red hot and it was still an incredible atmosphere, never really got into it besides the beginning of the second half. And like a lot of the social media chat is, the game was over. And that's the unfortunate bit. Joseph Suaalii was sent off in the 8th minute for that shot on Reece Walsh, which is easily the biggest talking point coming out of Game 1. Now, the simple question is, did you think it was a send-off or not? I'm going to go with the opinion that a lot of people I've seen online are hating from the Channel 9 guys, but I'm going to agree with it. I think at club football, it's a send-off, but when you're talking about State of Origin, it's a sin bin. James Graham brought this up at the start of the year talking about the kickoff. It's safety versus entertainment. At the end of the day, the NRL is an entertainment business, and it shouldn't matter, but it does. This is State of Origin. This generates 40% of the entire competition's revenue. That's almost 50% for 3 games a year, and the NRL have essentially ruined Game 1. Now, I know a lot of people will say that it shouldn't matter, and maybe it shouldn't, but we've seen in the past that different plays, I mean, look at that first kick from Reece Walsh. Liam Martin took him out in the air, and it was play on. Harry Grant got sin bin for touching a bloke's legs a couple of weeks ago. Now, if I'm going to be totally honest, which I do tend to be, when I first saw it, I did think in my heart of hearts, I was praying that it wasn't going to be a send-off. I did think that it'd be a sin, but that's always in the back of your mind, especially the way Reece Walsh was flattened. That's a big part of the injury and these sin bins and send-offs, and the NRL have admitted it. Whether you agree or not, the injury that occurs does play a factor into the way the action of the player in question is punished. So when Reece Walsh, the golden child, the NRL's baby, the marketing dream, which also does play into it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but when he's the most popular player, he's the guy the NRL are going to market to young kids, to young girls, to young boys, and guess what? It's a bad look when that guy is flattened in the 8th minute of the biggest game of the year so far. So it's just unfortunate. I'm not saying that if it wasn't Reece Walsh, it wouldn't have happened. I'm not saying if it was Stephen Crichton and not Suaalii, because Suaalii is going to rugby. I'm not saying that would have changed anything, but you got to take everything you can into account because it's a send-off in State of Origin. We just don't see it. We don't see penalties for State of Origin, and really that first half, that entire first half last night felt like a club football game. Now, ruining is a very harsh word, and obviously if you're a Queensland fan, then you are more than happy to see the backside of Joseph Suaalii for the better part of 72 minutes of that game. But as a New South Wales fan, one of 80,000 who spent their money, went out there to watch that game, for it to be over in the 8th minute just felt like a huge kick to the rugby league penis. And I could only imagine all the neutrals, all the guys who are in Victoria, all the AFL fans, all the neutrals who just get swept up in Origin every year, and it's on a Wednesday night, so you may as well chuck it on. That's why it's the biggest Australian sporting event. We only get 3 of them a year, and at least Game 1 is going to be tarnished for a long, long time, which makes it hard to dissect this game because this game was essentially over after the 8th minute. I know Queenslanders will come out and say that they were the better team, and you probably were. I thought the first few minutes New South Wales were on top, and it took one kick from Nicho Hynes to go dead before DC went God mode and put Ben Hunt over. If you had Ben Hunt first try scorer, first of all, what crack were you on, and also can you give me the prophecy? That, of course, led to the next set where they got the hammer break, which is also where Reece Walsh got his head taken off. Now, I do think that looking at it a few times, and in my opinion, back to that entertainment entertainment versus safety debate. When it's a game like State of Origin Game 1, I think that's a sin bin. I don't think it's not a penalty. That to me is a little bit crazy, but there are circumstances that you can factor in. Joseph Suaalii had committed to the tackle, and then once Reece Walsh slipped, his body height drops almost in half, and then of course that's where everything goes wrong. He gets rid of the ball. He had the ball when Suaalii committed, and then he slips and gets his head taken off. It's unfortunate for Reece Walsh that he slipped. I don't think he slipped on purpose. That's absolutely outrageous for him to want to take that from Suaalii. I don't really care how much he loves his state. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for send-offs in rugby league, but Reece Walsh got his jaw broken 6-8 weeks ago, and it wasn't even a sin bin, and that was in a boring club match. I don't want to say boring club match, but compared to the occasion, compared to the spectacle, compared to what Origin 1 was, there were 80,000 people there. There were millions watching on TV. This is your chance to showcase the game, and you ruined it after 8 minutes. Now, I'm not saying that if it was the right call or the bad call, either way, you still ruined it. Even if it was a send-off, if everyone's going to agree it's a send-off, the game is still ruined. New South Wales can't come back in the game they had to win. And from that point on, I thought there were some really brave efforts from New South Wales. I thought the beginning of the second half, they were looking real good. And that became because Michael Maguire probably finally made the decision to throw back rowers out there, which really messed with the rotation. There are some things I really want to lay into with Madge, but it's really hard to because we don't know what plans he had. We don't know what game plan he had. Like I said, it's really hard to fully analyze and review this game because it was ruined so early. I will say credit to New South Wales. They did give us hope and they did keep fighting. Yes, the scoreline looks like a monster in the end. And to be fair, maybe that was a fairer reflection of just how dominant Queensland were because they iced their chances in New South Wales. They couldn't. But again, it's hard when you've only got 12 men on the field. Credit to Queensland, though. They knew that advantage, and Tommy did, and it was his side on that left edge. It would have been very easy for him to stay within his role, but he called for the footy. He went there, and they absolutely had a field day down that right-hand side. Poor Nicho Hynes, all the talk about him getting his Origin redemption, he found himself back at right centre. And unfortunately, Queensland just had a field day with him and Lomax. But again, can you really blame Nicho? They swapped Stephen Crichton there to stop the bleeding after those 2 tries, but they ended up being, well, it was more than that by the end, but there was a 10-point gap there for so long, so you take out those 2 tries straight after the send-off, and it was a much closer game. DCE, well-deserved player of the match. He was absolutely outstanding. I think he's more interested in Shields than he ever was in premierships for Manly. Is that me being salty? You bet it is. I hope this guy can deliver this form at Manly, and it just sucks because every single year we talk Cleary, we talk Moses, we talk even Nicho, and yep, there's 3 games a year where DCE goes, well, hold on. There's a reason why I'm still the Australian halfback. There's a reason why I'm the best halfback in the entire competition, and that little giraffe proved it again tonight. Obviously, the hammer was absolutely outstanding. That is where Hammer plays for his club at fullback. Cobbo plays left centre for his club at the Brisbane Broncos. So it makes absolute sense why they went there. And the Hammer, dare I say, may be one of the greatest Origin players of all time. That is so hyperbole, but oh my goodness, this guy has had such an incredible start to his career. He's already scored probably more tries than games he's played. He has been so good, and dare I say, he looked even better at fullback than he ever has at centre. Queensland, though, they did their job. They all filled in their roles, and they all did what they were supposed to do. Obviously, it was a bit easier with less men, but I thought that Cotter, Collins, and especially Paddy Carrigan all put their hand up, all really nullified New South Wales middles, which were thrown up in the air, but I thought they did an incredible job. For New South Wales, I thought on the whole they were very brave. We'll go deeper into it when I talk just New South Wales in a different video. I think Madge's biggest blunder was playing his captain for 29 minutes, and I don't know why Jake was named captain when you left Isaiah Yeo on there for so long. I think Yeo was absolutely out on his feet. He missed several tackles, about a few sets, and then he ended up throwing that intercept pass, which would have been under fatigue. So I don't know what was going on there. I get you had to really rotate all those back rowers in and out as frequently as you can and try and cover for the loss of a centre, but at the end of the day, all the talk about Matty Burton, that wouldn't have mattered. It's a send-off. At the end of the day, this game was over after 8 minutes, and Michael Maguire, we still haven't got to see him play his style of Origin football, which is a shame. I do think Teddy was solid, not good enough to keep Edwards out. I do think James Tedesco may have just played his last Origin game, but it was good to see him get that final farewell Toto was great. Stephen Crichton was absolutely superb. Made a huge difference swapping sides. I thought Zach Lomax was close to our best. He has to come back. I think the halves, unfortunately, I do think that it was a tale of two ends. I think Nico Hines really struggled, unfortunately. I think Luai definitely had a mixed game, had a lot more upside in attack. The game plan was clearly built around Nico Hines. So unfortunately, Luai didn't get to see as much ball as he would have liked. And while it's so unfair, I do expect that there might be some changes there. Game 2, I don't know what on earth was playing a captain for 30 minutes, especially when we needed him, because it was a defensive-minded game. We needed to make tackles, and you played him for 29 bloody minutes. I thought Reece Robson was absolutely incredible. I think he was definitely gassed towards the back end, but he would manage to play 80 minutes in the middle as a dummy half with a 12-man side. So Reece Robson, absolutely incredible. I thought Payne Haas was very quiet once again. Unfortunately, I think, again, it's hard with the bench rotation. I think Ola Kawatu and Hudson Young, you probably only need one of them. I thought they got in the way. Out of the two, I'd probably go Ola Kawatu. He did have that really bad error, but he still had 10 runs. He still made plenty of tackles, and they were dominant tackles as well. Unfortunately, Isaiah Yeo is a terrific club footballer, but he just hasn't delivered yet in Origin. So we'll get more interchanges for Game 2. I wouldn't hate if Maz just rocked out the same team. I know it's hard to say that after a loss, especially for New South Wales, but the game was over, and that's what I've kept saying throughout this video, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's hard to analyze and review this game because it was over after 8 minutes. The scoreline was done. It was 1-0 to Queensland, and we were just waiting to see how it happened. I'm really glad that Reece Walsh looks okay. He's up on his feet. He's somehow passed his HIA. He'll be sitting out for 11 days. So I hope he's all right. He's looking at 4 to 5 weeks, which I guess if it's going to be a State of Origin send-off, then they're going to give you that. But I guess the NRL, they're not going to get back down from their position. It's just a real shame that out of all the games this year, this one was the one that got ruined by a send-off. And whether you agree or disagree, the game was ruined because of the send-off. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on Origin 1. I know it's very hard to dissect. Smash that like button, guys. Subscribe if you haven't yet already. And I'll see you in the next one.